to be able to look at something and to love it for the sake of it. And nurturing and maintaining that is one of the hardest tests of any pro, much less for anyone to find, right? What is the Beethoven who never found his piano or harpsichord or, right? And when I found these movements and the little subtle things that no one was pointing me and telling me what to do because I have such a visceral push against being told what to do. For the joy of what I'm doing, you're going to tell me what to do. I struggle with that. There's days you want to go out, it hurts, or you're sore, or you just suck. You're not making progress. You're ramming it and you feel defeated. Like sometimes after filming tricks, it would be everything I could not from wanting to turn my car off into the, you know what I mean? Like you take it that personal. But that's the nature of love, you know? It's got hate in there, you know? It's got pain in there. And it draws you to it. That's the magnetism. That's what, I guess I have that. I've nurtured it in my life. I see people with talent, with all those things. But the one thing they don't have is that just love for doing it for the sake of it. And the sense of obligation to do something with what you're given, you know? And so when I see people who have had success, I see boredom for the most part in them. And then I see a tombstone. But usually when you get what you thought you wanted, fire goes away. So if there's anything, just find joy in what you do for the sake of it. And then recognize how you're being shaped in the process. And hopefully you become a better man through it, you know?
Welcome everybody to the 9th episode of Catch My Riff. I'm your host, Devin Canfield, and we are back post-Thanksgiving. Not post-Malone, post-Thanksgiving. And I hope you guys had a great Thanksgiving. Hope there was a lot of food involved, maybe some Christmas music. That's a hot take. Do you set up for Christmas before Thanksgiving, or do you wait till Thanksgiving's done? But yeah, I hope everyone had a good holiday as we prep for Christmas now. And now more than ever, we have a good opportunity to look and really see and kind of analyze and recalibrate to the things we are thankful for and what we can be grateful for. And sometimes the world, and especially now with this pandemic going on, it's very easy to get distracted with everything that is not ideal for us. And I struggle with that now. I don't know about you guys, but especially with this stuff going on. But there's a lot to be thankful for, and there are blessings to be counted every day. Today's intro was a snippet from Rodney Mullen's Impact Theory YouTube video, and man, I love that. Love that shit. And I hope you do too. And Impact Theory has a lot of good YouTube content out there if you're looking to pursue your dreams and follow your passion. So check that out. As far as today's episode goes, though, we have Andrew Oliver on the podcast, and he is a prominent musician in the upstate of South Carolina, and primarily in the Greenville, South Carolina area. Brother Oliver stands for him and his brother Steven and their 4-piece band, which is a psychedelic folk band, and yes, I would consider that a genre after listening to those guys. So not only that, he's a singer, guitarist, songwriter, producer, engineer, yet even more so, he is an entrepreneur and businessman. And I'm sitting with the list in front of me right now with his companies and everything he's involved with. But rather than me try to explain it to you guys, I will let him do that himself as we enter this podcast. So before we get started with the content, I wanted to go ahead and play one of my favorite Brother Oliver songs. So without further ado, this is While I'm Driving by Brother Oliver.
Even wanna write a song when everybody says I'm writing it wrong. write about what's right and what's wrong. And I don't wanna hear your stories about staying out till the morning, partying like a rock star, 'cause the drinks just won't stop pouring. While I'm driving down the road. I don't even wanna write a song. When everybody says I'm writing it wrong. 'Cause I write about what's right and what's wrong. And I don't wanna hear your politics, not trying to follow scripts, chasing after dollars and making soldiers out of college kids. While I'm driving down the I don't even wanna write a song. I don't even wanna write a song. While I'm driving down the road.
Everything down here is, I mean, it's honestly probably like the rest of the country, just kind of in disarray. But personally, I've been great. I feel fortunate. Um, I've had, this year's been surprisingly a good year for me and the things I've been working on, and some of that's just luck. But with all the virus stuff going on, we launched Waves earlier this year, and it turned out to be like kind of like the perfect product for the times, because the whole thing with our product, it's an in-ear monitor solution, a custom fit in-ear monitor solution, and it eliminates the need to go to the audiologist to get fitted, because we use 3D scanning from a cell phone. That's like our thing. And so with the pandemic, people going to the doctor, going to an audiologist is a chore, and you have to leave the house. And so, that played into a little bit of our success, I think, with everything going on. Because we were nervous, because we were set to launch literally the week that everything got shut down, when the government's like, okay, we got to shut, when they shut the economy down, basically. That was the week we were supposed to launch. And we've been working for months and months and months getting ready for this. And, we didn't know like how things were going to play out. We didn't know if people weren't going to buy anything, like, let alone our product. But we went through with it. We're like, we did all this work. I mean, the product's ready to go. We might as well launch it. So we did. And it ended up going well for us. But it was definitely nerve-wracking,
I bet. Was the pandemic almost helpful in a way? Did it give you like a couple moments to kind of look at the product and look at the whole scheme of it all for a second, since there was kind of some downtime?
Well, we were working on this. I came on the company in January, and Rick, who is it's his brainchild. He'd been working on it for about a year before he brought me on. But from January, February, March, we were just developing it, refining it, trying to make that final user ready product. And so we really came to the end of that with our finished, ready to go product just as the virus was becoming a reality. So as soon as that became a reality, the product was already developed and ready to go. It was just a matter of launching it, publishing it, making people aware of it, and hoping obviously that people liked it and saw the value and bought it. So there wasn't a ton of downtime from that standpoint. We were working remotely for a couple of weeks when everything went down. It's just two of us. Now we've got a couple more guys that we've brought onto the team, but at that time it was just two of us. So it wasn't like we had, a 30-person company where we had to pretty much make everyone disperse. But yeah, we launched it, and with our product being 100% on, you order it online, you do the fitting remotely with your phone. I think it helped us, because people were at home and people were bored and people still wanted music gear. People still, were playing music in the studio at home, all the home recording going on. That's also a place where people use monitors and in-ear monitors. So I think it just, it was kind of, we had that saving grace where it just happened to be the product that could withstand that.
And the thing is, too, you got everyone on their phones a little bit more.
Right.
People are on their phone all the time anyway.
Right.
But now even more so, and online purchasing is probably a plus in a way.
Oh yeah.
For this whole thing. But dude, you're busy as hell. Even when I met you a while back, and even for like listeners, I ran into you through even just hearing about Forthright. You guys are Greenville natives, Greenville, South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where we're based.
So for those of people who will be listening, we're sitting with Andrew Oliver, frontman of Brother Oliver, the band, as the quote unquote psychedelic folk of the upstate South Carolina. So definitely check them out. And we're going to kind of be all over the place right now because there's a lot to talk about, even since you guys just released a new record and everything. But you are a busy person. I'm just going to read off, I had to make some notes, but a list of your kind of projects. At the time, you were doing Brother Oliver. You had just started Dummies when I had met you. And then Forthright Records was another thing. So we kind of discussed waves, but as we kind of go into all of these different projects, not only a musician, but an entrepreneur as well. When did this all come to be where you were like, you know what? I want to do this. I want to do that. When did you start kind of diving into entrepreneurship?
It's kind of always been in my blood a little bit. Even like in high school and, I've always been creating things. I think that's really my main passion is creating things, right? Because that's where it always starts. So I love making things. Obviously I'm big into the entertainment industry with music, and we actually got our very first start with entertainment through skateboarding, right? So ever since I was 11, I was really into skating, and I was putting in a ton of time trying to get as good as I could be at it. And then when I was like 15, I was starting to get pretty decent, and my brother Steven and I, we'd go and we'd film videos, skate video parts, and the first couple ones we did were kind of shoddy, but it was fun. And then we ended up kind of making a name for ourselves a little bit in the area we grew up, which was West Michigan. And so we had a YouTube channel. We put out a video like every week. And this is like, early when YouTube was relatively new, and Facebook, like when we were posting these videos on Facebook, there wasn't a like button. All there was comments. So I remember, we would judge our reach with a video based on how many comments we were getting. It's just like, that's how long ago it was. It wasn't even a like button. But yeah, so we'd put out these videos every week, and we'd try and put out like one big video every year for skating. And it was just so much fun. And we'd make the DVDs and we'd sell the DVDs to people, and sell the video. And so we did that a bunch. And then I actually got into recording music from there because I was spending so much time in the video editing software just cutting together these videos, that I got really comfortable and familiar with like that format, with the multi-track format, because I'd edit the audio with the video as well. And my friend Dakota, we were like 16, 17. For whatever reason, we just got the idea of like, let's make some music. And I didn't really have any gear or software to do that, but I had a set of those Apple headphones that had the little microphone on the cable. And I had my video editing software, and I knew that we could record with that little microphone, and I could edit it in the audio track on my video editor, and then just export a black video, and then use another website online that would convert the video to an MP4 or MP3 audio, and then we'd have our song. And so we cut like a little EP. It was really stupid, really silly, meant to be like a comedy album. But we did that all in my garage with the microphone on an Apple headphone set and the audio track on a video editor. So we did that, and then it was like a fire lit in my, in my soul. And I was like, I just want to make music now. And I almost completely quit skating from that point on and just started making music and trying to learn instruments and get better at that whole world. But, so we made the music, and then obviously, I've always approached the music with business in mind, like I always wanted to do it the right way and get people to hear the music, buy the music, we'd play shows. And so, the entrepreneurial spirit, I guess, was present in those scenarios as well. But, I just always have like this urge to create stuff, and I always love new ideas. I love, when other people have new ideas as well. I just love business, entrepreneurship, products, content. I just love novelty. Maybe it's just novelty that I love. But I always just am running through ideas. I'm always trying to think of new ideas too. But we did the music thing, and then I launched the product Dummies that you referenced, and that got a little bit of traction, and that led me into meeting the Rick Hoke, who brought me on to help him develop the Waves product. And it's just kind of been, that's kind of how it's fallen together. And Forthright Records is our media company that we do a lot of work with artists and even small companies, helping them with online branding and stuff like that, and just online work. But yeah, it's a lot of fun, man. I got my hand in a lot of different pots, but I enjoy the challenge of that. It keeps me motivated.
Yeah, and I even want to acknowledge what you were saying about the skating, dude. I mean, when we were, because you're what, 27?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, same age as me. And the one thing to take into account is when we were in middle school, I mean, all the major social media stuff, even the entertainment of, we didn't have smart TVs, like things like that. But dude, the Tony Hawks were still relevant. Like I remember American Wasteland came out, and I mean, we were pretty young, but that type of scene was huge. It still is, but you found a lot of cool ass music from the Tony Hawk Pro Skater game. So like, I feel like skating and that scene has a type, like music is so important to it,
Yeah, it was like skate videos were almost like music videos, and my brother and I, we used to love them for that reason. We would, we had our favorite skate videos, and a lot of times what made them our favorite was, a big part of it was the soundtrack.
Yeah. And I remember, because you would go to a lot of the stores or local skate shops or something like that, and they had, like you were saying, this was kind of before YouTube and all those things, but you would buy skaters like VHS tapes or
Mm-hmm.
their DVDs, and yeah, no, I remember those. Like I remember Rodney Mullins. It was like huge, It's like,
Oh yeah,
yo, check that out. This guy's legit. But yeah, it's amazing how skating, surfing, the type of those sports plays a part. But it actually, so you're coming full circle. So you met the guy from Waves via Dummies, you're saying?
right,
Okay.
yes. So I was hustling Dummies, and we had gotten a huge purchase order from a company.
Why don't you can you explain Dummies and even like what they are and like their use and like their purposes too?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so Dummies they're 1/4-inch dummy plugs, or dust plugs, you can call them, for the 1/4 inch inputs on your music gear or your recording gear. So like guitars and amps and soundboards, they all have those 1/4 inch jacks where you plug the cable into. And what dummies is, it's a rubber plug with a decorative head that goes into that jack, and it's a plug. It's a dust plug, so it keeps stuff from getting into that jack, like dust or spills or whatever. But it serves as like a marker as well too, so you can mark off inputs that you're not using, or if you have a soundboard that's set up just a certain way, you can use the dummies to kind of fill in all the inputs that are supposed to be filled, or vice versa. So it's just kind of like a creative, fun little product. And like I said, they're decorative, so they have like alien heads or diamond heads or skull heads, so they look cool on your gear as well. So that's what that product is. And we had gotten a huge purchase order for like a couple thousand of them, which at the time, for that was like by far our biggest order ever. And I only had so many molds to make them, and I had like done the math. I was like, if I make like 3 batches a day every day, I'm not gonna be able to fill this order in time. So I needed more molds, and so I put out a PSA on Facebook, just like, hey, who has 3D printers? Because we'd print the molds with 3D printers. And I was just like, I need some folks with 3D printers. And Rick was one of the guys that reached out. I was like, dude, I got a ton of 3D printers. What's up? And so I told him, like, dude, I just need someone to help me print these molds because I need a bunch. And he's like, yeah, dude, I got you, man. And we started meeting and talking. And I was going to his office to pick up the molds, and we talk about what he was working on, and I was intrigued by it. And long story short, he was working on waves, and we just, I shared the vision. I saw the potential, and the more we met, the more it started to make sense that maybe I could help him bring that product to the table and launch it to the market. And so he made me the offer, and I came on.
The one thing I want to know from your perspective, when we had jammed the one time, in my head I was thinking you were like producing these, from like almost like an outsourced place. Bro, you were cooking those things.
Oh yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that you do or don't mind sharing, but yeah, you were literally making them in your kitchen.
Right. Yeah, and I don't mind talking about it. When I developed the product, obviously my intention was to eventually have them mass produced, find some kind of manufacturer or factory that could mass produce these things. And excuse me, the costs that go into that, just by how much detail was in the rubber plug to get those molds made, it was going to be like $20,000-$30,000 just for like to get an initial order. Mm-hmm. Which in the business world, I mean, that's a lot of money, but it's not like an insurmountable amount of money. But I wasn't, it's a lot of money to spend on a product if you're not sure it's going to sell, right? So, in my mind, I'm like, I can't justify spending, $30,000 that I certainly didn't have at that time. And I would have had to raise like investors and stuff. I was like, I don't know if this product's even going to sell. I think it will. I believe in it, but it's still quite a bit of money. So me and my team, we figured out a way to create it using molds and 3D printers, to where we could print these molds, and I have like 50 of them, and we can mix the silicone solution in-house, and you fill the molds, you let it dry, you can put it in the oven to accelerate that drying process, which is what I usually do, and I can make them in-house at a low volume. Obviously, I can't make like a million like that, but I can make them at a low volume. So I did that to get the product to market, so just to see if it would sell. And that way I didn't have to, drop like 20 grand and then cross my fingers, which, I mean, risk is part of business. At the end of the day, it's not unrealistic that someone would have to do that. But I felt like there could be a faster and more cost efficient way to get to market. So we figured out how to do them in-house. We launched it. People ended up liking them. people ended up buying them. And so it became one of those things, and it's still kind of a tug of war where we're able to make them in house. And I've trained people who know how to make them now, and I'll pay people to make them, where we still haven't gone to the mass production route because demand hasn't quite been there. But once the demand reaches a point, I will have to make that investment to where they can be mass produced. But right now we've been able to carry with our in-house production, which is pretty cool. So we can make, enough batches at a fast enough pace where it makes sense for now.
And the reason I bring that up is because I need to know from your perspective, right? Everyone's different, but I need to know where the resilience is in this, where you're able to have in your mind the execution to take the idea and then turn the idea into making it be more than just an idea. It seems like you have some sort of trait where you could say, I don't care what the obstacle is. If I have to make them in-house in my own house to get this product launched, I will. So I'm curious about the ability to see the project through. Is it still a challenge for you, or do you find that that's something that comes naturally,
Well, yeah, I mean, you have to decide to once you decide you want to do something, if you really mean it and if you're really determined, you can get it done. It's amazing to me. A lot of people have great ideas, right? You only hear about the people who actually follow through and see those ideas through, right? But it's amazing to me how many people I talk to and they're like, well, I had this idea for a product, or I had this idea for like an app or some solution for something. And they're like, yeah, I just never really pursued it. And it's like, well, that right there, like you have to first get over that hump, right? Like not only do you have to have the idea, you actually have to put some effort into seeing it through, And I think once you start taking those steps, you start to build momentum because the sunk cost theory starts to come into play a little bit, right? So like once you've come so far, you're not going to try and throw away all that progress over, a given obstacle. You're going to try and find a way through it. So you do have to have a certain level of determination. And there also is a level of grit and intensity that's needed for most things. Like, some of it's in my biology. I've always had a lot of energy and I've always kind of had an optimistic attitude. And I can't really remember a time where I chose to be that way. Obviously, I have my ups and downs too, like any human being. And there's moments where I have to choose to stay positive, but overall I've just had like a almost God-given, energetic kind of optimistic demeanor. So some of that I'm fortunate because I know some people just aren't that way. Right. But you got to have that sense of determination and you got to be optimistic. You got to believe in what you're doing and you can find ways through obstacles. Like there's always a way. And if you can't find a way, then there could be something fundamentally that needs to be addressed. But it takes a lot of, sacrifice to do anything that's new or novel. With the dummies, like when we had that huge order, I remember it was Thanksgiving and I had, even with the molds, so I got enough molds, I finally was able to get enough molds. Mm-hmm. And I had to do at least 2 batches a day in like a 3-week period to have enough to fill this big order. And I couldn't miss a day. And I couldn't, if I messed up a batch, I had to make up for that. So it'd be like 3 batches the next day or whatever. And so I remember it was Thanksgiving Day at my girlfriend's family's house, at her grandma's house. And I'm like in the back room, like pouring dummies.
Nice.
Like, and they're cool about it. Like, but it's like that sometimes that's what you have to do, like there was dummies like drying in the back of our car while we're driving there, like to West Virginia. And, I say that not to like puff myself up, but it's like, that's just, sometimes you have to do that, like sometimes you have to do what isn't, most people are like, oh, it's Thanksgiving, you shouldn't have to work on Thanksgiving. It's like, well, sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you got to do what's uncomfortable to get it done. So there's just a sense of determination as well that you got to have.
Have you ever been told you can't do something along the path or you don't
With
seem like
music,
someone who takes outside noise and hears it.
I really don't. I definitely, I've always been a bit rogue in that sense, and I've always been a bit rebellious. You know, like growing up, I was always like a rebellious kid, and so that kind of plays in my favor a little bit with business, because it's like, yeah, if someone tells me something can't be done, I'm going to try and find a way to do it for sure.
But has that happened to you personally?
With music is where we saw the most pushback, right? And it's almost understandable because the music industry is one of the most difficult industries in the world, you know, especially for original music. Mark Cuban actually said that in a quote. I remember that because he said he was talking about an industry that was very difficult. And I can't remember what industry it was, but he's like, it might be the most difficult industry in the world outside of the music industry. But yet, when we went into music, there was a lot of people that were like, you know, just like most musicians face, there's that pushback, like, ah, you can't make a living doing this, or, you know, like, you're not in high school anymore. Like, it's time to get a real job, you know. So we saw a lot of that when we decided to go into music, from like family and stuff. And, you know, most of them mean well, you know, nobody was truly like mean spirited about it, but there's that pushback for sure, you know, and that comes with the entertainment business. Like comedians get it, and musicians, and anything that's truly original and creative is going to have some naysayers for sure. Um, but with, you know, hard good products like with Dummies and with Waves, you know, we've had a lot of support, and there wasn't a whole bunch of naysayers with that. But, you know, anytime you're trying to do something that hasn't been done, you'll see those two camps. You'll have a lot of people cheering you on, and then there'll be a lot of skeptics as well.
How do you handle the pushback at times if it approaches? I know you said naturally you can kind of be very clear and grounded in your decisions and why you're doing them. But is there any sort of something you do to keep your mind kind of solidified and grounded? Or is it just something that comes natural, like where you're just like, your first initial thought is to just keep pushing forward confidently? Because that's not the case for everyone, like you said.
Right, right. Well, I've always, you know, forged ahead just kind of by default. But I struggle, you know, I, I've definitely in the past struggled with negativity, like comments and stuff. Like, you know, like we're not like, you know, some huge high profile entity where we're, you know, there's millions of people talking about us online. But when you publish enough content through enough different channels, just as much as you get people who are saying, "Oh, this is awesome, great job," or "I love what you're doing," you almost just as much get people who are trolling, who are, you know, talking shit. And when you have, you know, I've got like, you know, 4 or 5 different entities on social media that regularly publish content. So it's like that took me a little while to get used to, like seeing the negative comments. It used to bother me a lot, especially when it was like stuff like that was very personal. Like I'd put out a video of myself like explaining something. There'd be people just like trash talking in the comments. It's like that took me a second to get used to. But once you kind of get used, you know, over time it just happens so much just by nature of publishing content. You kind of get numb to it, and it's just how people are. Unfortunately, you know, any big celebrity, if you look on anything they post, there's just thousands of comments, and there's just so much of it's just trash talk and just trolls. And then, you know, there's a bunch of nice comments as well. It's just how people are, you know, online. So that took a little bit of getting used to, and it still kind of sucks when you got to deal with someone just trying to be nasty, you know. Because I think deep down I'm a bit of a people pleaser, which, you know, I like to make people feel good. You know, I like to, you know, that's why I think I got into the music and the creating of content, because I like to create things that people enjoy. So when I, you know, have someone who's not enjoying it, then it's like obviously that has a little sting to it. But at this point, I've pretty much grown to accept it. You know, I kind of trained myself to the fact that if, you know, if nobody's saying anything negative or nobody's like trying to give you pushback, then you might not be uh, publishing yourself aggressively enough to the point where enough people are consuming the content. So the negative feedback can be a sign that people actually care and pay attention.
I am curious, with all of the ideas and things you've started up, even with the music, have you ever had things, I won't say slip through the cracks, but were there other ideas that like didn't come to fruition while you were building these other kind of, I'll say, enterprises? Sometimes for myself, I feel like for every one or two ideas that get pushed through, 5 or 6 went through the cracks.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was telling my brother the other day, like an analogy where, you know, those things when like you would put a bunch of sand or material on it and you would kind of like shake it and like stuff
Yeah.
would sift through, and then like all the kind of I don't know, better, I'm thinking like even in terms of like certain rocks or diamonds come through, and sometimes I feel that's kind of a position that I'm in, and I would even, you know, I think judge that process to be like, well, fuck, should I just have an idea and just run with it and be good with it? Or is it just, hey, this is how things kind of play out for me? Do you find yourself in a position like that? Because like I was, truly, it's impressive to follow through with all the things you're doing. And there's still even more things I'm looking at to discuss that I want to get your input on. But yeah, do things, as you make these ideas, does anything kind of get left behind as another one comes forward for you?
I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, so definitely, bandwidth is a thing, like it's even in the last couple of years, I've had to face the reality of we all have a certain amount of bandwidth.
In what, like, what do you mean? In what regard?
Like we all have 24 hours in a day, like even if even if anyone is just at absolute peak levels of discipline and time management, they can only do so much, right? At the end of the day. And so, I like to call that bandwidth. And, I only have so much, just like everybody only has so much. And so there is an aspect of, you have to choose what it is you're going to pursue. And, most people can do more than they think they can, myself included. Like it's good to kind of like have a check on yourself and be like, okay, where am I just wasting time? Or, maybe you're not wasting time, but most of the time people can do more than they think. But at the end of the day, you can only do so much, right? So there's absolutely ideas that I have and have had that I just can't pursue right now, but that's okay. Because it's like, at the end of the day, it's like you can just try your best. And I think that's just like part of who I am, is to try constantly think of ideas. And, I've had ideas for different kind of apps, or different like follow-up products or versions of dummies that I just haven't had the time to pursue or make happen. And, there's things I think about, but I like that feeling of wanting a little bit, cause it kind of keeps you going. It keeps you keeps you hungry a little bit. So yeah, I definitely have ideas. I only have so much time, and at the end of the day, you got to put your eggs in the basket of the ones you think are going to be the best ones. You always got to juggle a little bit when you have multiple entities, but being able to focus and really give your efforts to the ones that need it most. That's the skill, I think, is being able to know, okay, this product or this venture, it doesn't need my full attention these next couple of weeks. It's doing good. It's in a good place, but this one here really needs my attention, or it could suffer greatly. Being able to identify and not mishandle those moments, because, you're juggling. Like right now, Waves is firing on all cylinders. Yeah. So it demands almost all my attention right now. So it's like, that is my full-time job, running that company and working with Rick on that. And we're seeing some good success. But it's, it's time for us to just keep adding fuel to that fire, so down the road, we'd love to grow the company to a point where, just like any company wants, where you can have a team and that eventually some of those burdens of just the everyday operations start to lighten, and then it frees up a little more bandwidth, because we have products that we want to pursue with Waves as well. Like we want to pursue a hearing aid solution with our technology, different things like that. So once we're able to free up some of those everyday burdens of just running the company, then we'll be able to develop new products. And so we've been bringing on people and training people. So we're in the growing phases of that, which is exciting. But yeah, it's I hate that there's only 24 hours in a day for sure. Like, but we all have the same amount to deal with.
I remember you had given me even the advice of how you were saying like patience is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Was it tough for you in a way, or was there any moments where maybe you thought, oh, I'm not seeing the results as quick as I would like, and then having to take a step back? Did you ever have those types of thoughts with anything?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely have those moments of not so much doubt, because we so much believe in the products. Like just as an entrepreneur and as a creator, like just by nature of that, you believe in what you're doing. But there's kind of moments of fear, definitely, when, especially like if sales are like real low, or like like you're in a real low sale period, and you depend on that. You don't have some massive corporation with millions and millions of dollars in reserves to cover you when your times are slow. It's like that's our vein, that's our lifeline, is those sales. And so you have those moments a little bit of like, oh man, like when are the sales going to pick back up? What do we got to do? But it determines you. Like if we go through a valley like that, then it's just like I'm trying to dive in and find ways to get us out. Like what do we have to do? What's not working? What promotional rollout do we need, or what do we need to communicate, etc. So it's always there's actions and there's always reactions to those things. So, but you definitely have those moments of a little bit of fear, not like a bone rattling fear per se, but it gets wary when the sales are slow. But thankfully for Waves, we've been overall have like had a great year. But it's just this, that's the nature of entrepreneurship. It's those ups and downs, and I love it. I personally love it, because it's like when it's up, you're up. Those highs are so high, and then the lows, instead of just letting them be depressing, or it's like you just got to use it as fuel and determination, like because you want that high again. So it's almost it's a little bit of a drug.
It's mindset as well. It's the perception of looking at a given situation, glass half full as opposed to glass half empty.
Mm-hmm.
And the crazy thing about this is when I listen to your guys' music, which, this is kind of your guys' baby, I would assume, Brother Oliver.
Mm-hmm.
And you guys just released your new EP, Command Shift,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome, by the way. And the coolest thing about you guys is, as you think about it, we've been sitting here and you're giving us your insight into the world of marketing, all entrepreneurship and products. Yet Brother Oliver, to me, is kind of giving insight into saying, like, not that that's all bullshit, but that there's something bigger. And so when I hear the music like that, in a way, I think to myself that maybe that even has a input factor to the success of your overall the overall outlook of your projects, is because it almost maybe seems like you take it with the joy of creating as opposed to tangible results.
Right.
It's like
Yeah.
you just love the process, and you're bearing the fruits of your labor and putting the roots into the ground first. There's a guy, his name's Sadhguru. He's like this mystic guy. He's a boss. Like, dude, the guy's a baller. And he talks about like all this spiritual stuff and kind of more so like deeper insight into life and how to handle situations and handle yourself so that you can be successful in the mind, which in turn can be successful in the physical world.
I love that.
And he was talking about how he was like people want the fruits of life, right? They want to enjoy that. Yet what we're missing is the fact that think about if you spent so much time building your roots and putting them into the ground, i.e. like doing inner work, facing your subconscious mind, and think about what would happen if we focused on the roots of ourselves. Then the fruits are already there, even though they haven't fully come to fruition. The only tangible result you're going to get at some point from building that foundation is the fruits of your labor. Yet at the same time, with your guys' music, like I'm looking at Altars, right? A song you guys released not too long ago. A line that stood out to me: making love to a cell phone, which shows a way of how you guys can perceive technology, of kind of seeing how fallible it can be. But even your guys' new song, Time and Money, the one line that stood out to me: you can't change the world if you can't change yourself. This whole EP, I mean, just the titles of the songs: Time or Money, Minimum Wage, Who Shot the Music. There's such like a kind of fuck the system attitude to the songs. And that's where, if we could start diving into the music, I mean, what's this about? Where you can kind of pursue all these things, and is there kind of some truth to what I'm perceiving with the music as a listener?
Oh yeah, I'd say so. Going back to what you were saying, like with Brother Oliver is the one thing that, it's very obviously dear to our hearts and dear to my heart. And it's the thing that's kind of everything else has stemmed off of. But what's ironic is it's also the thing that, outside of us just playing shows, it doesn't really make much money or any money, right? Like streaming payouts are so small, so when we release music, we're not doing it to make money, like the time and effort it takes to record and write those songs. If we wanted to make money, we could have made more money doing just about anything else.
Yeah. Yes, I do know.
Yeah. As well as a musician. So it's like, that is the one thing and that's what's so refreshing and so, I guess, artistic. It really is an art to us that, we don't do it to make money. Like all the other businesses, they depend on the revenue and the profits and all that stuff. And that stuff is cool. Like that, you need that stuff to pay the bills. But with Brother Oliver, we do it because we love it. It's a passion project.
Off their new EP, Command Shift, this is Brother Oliver with Time or Money.
The world if you can't change yourself. You get your way, but you get nothing else. Pointing it out just to lose all the points and lose all our friends. Something's gotta go. You get the time or the money, and your honey's gotta know. You get the time or the money, and everybody's gotta know. You get the time or the money, and something's gotta go. Change the world if you can't change yourself. gotta know you get the time or the money. Everybody's gotta know you get the time or the money. And something's gotta go.
You know, it used to be our full-time income, but that was when we were playing and touring and playing shows. You know, touring was not on the table for this year, and we wouldn't have been able to do it extensively like we had done in the past, just with the other things we've got going on. But, you know, all that to say, you know, when we release music and when we do stuff for Brother Oliver, I love the place that it's in right now because it's a place out of passion. And that's what it started as to begin with. We did, you know, we started Brother Oliver because we were passionate about it and passionate about writing the songs and creating the songs. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I'm just as fulfilled by that as the other ventures that are, you know, putting money in my pocket, you know. And it's funny because when my other products are doing well and maybe I'm like having a really good month and making a ton of money, there's still this void that isn't fulfilled by that. Like the money doesn't just do it for me, you know, like I'm not just, you know, at the end of the day, I'm not just trying to make a bunch of money. I'm trying to create stuff that people enjoy. And Brother Oliver, we're fortunate to have a small fan base that enjoys what we do, and we've been able to you know put out a lot of music over the years, and so like that desire never goes away for us. And so, you know, putting out this EP wasn't something we had planned to do this year because we've just been, you know, I've been super busy, but it's like I felt like it's just something I wanted to do so bad that we found a way to get it done. We found the time to make it happen, and we're really proud of it. And it's just kind of it was kind of a salute a little bit to our fans, just to be like, you know, look, like obviously we haven't been able to play shows, you know, if most of them follow me personally as well, they know I have other things going on outside of Brother Oliver, but it's like I wanted them to know that like Brother Oliver is still important to us, and it's a thing that's not going away, and we're going to keep, you know, putting out the content that we put out.
That's such an important part to creating in general, just doing it for the love of doing it. With the new EP Command Shift, you guys kind of crown yourselves psychedelic folk.
Mm-hmm.
You guys, to me, in certain facets and certain songs, you sound like you're straight out of like the 70s or something.
Hell yeah.
Like some sort of time it's like old soul music, you know? Like
I
it's
like that.
Yeah, it's like the stuff that even in the modern day of 2020, it has that very raw, spacious, and even like kind of the ways you guys write, like they're almost like in different modes. Like some of the chord progressions, when I hear them, they're not your standard like pop 1-4-5 stuff. You know, that like 2-6-1 progression, things like that. It's in those. It sounds like it's from the 70s to me. But even these new songs, like the one thing that stood out to me was the synths. You guys added some synths in there, which was it fit perfectly. And the thing is, with your brother on the mandolin, he almost uses that like a pad at times with the high reverb, kind of the higher end spectrum of your guys' music. And hearing the synths added a nice low end dimension to it.
Yeah. So the synths, you know, that was our bassist George, and he used, you know, we sat down with all three songs, and he just got his synth out, and we just you know hit record and see what came, you know, and saw what came, and he wrote some really cool parts, and it added. It's something he's wanted to do for a while, and I've wanted him to do for a while because he's a great keys player, and he doesn't really get to do it much because he's always playing the bass. But you know, we're like, let's give this a little different feel. Let's, you know, color it up. And so he went in and he laid all those parts, and particularly on Minimum Wage, I love what he did with the keys, because that song is got the fewest layers out of any of the tracks on the EP. It's very, you know, it's very fun, rudimentary. It's just, you know, guitar, mandolin, drums, bass, and then he added a synthesizer part, and there's vocals, of course, too. But it's we didn't add a bunch of bells and whistles, is what I'm trying to say. And his synthesizer part on that song is just so perfect, and it gave it just enough identity and made it just really the song I wanted it to be. But he did that on all 3 songs, and it kind of gave it a bit of an electronic touch to the EP, which fit the aesthetic, because we had kind of the keyboard aesthetic going on with the artwork and all of that. So it kind of gave it the 3 tracks cohesive kind of identity, and I was really stoked on it. So but that was all George Sweet. So shout out to George.
Shout out George. And look at one of the bigger bands right now that's kind of emerged, because they had that old classic 70s, I don't know, mixing the 80s, but Tame Impala,
Oh yeah.
So regardless of if you like them or not, they have those elements of working the synths in, and it was cool to hear with your guys' music. With Minimum Wage, the way you're saying things, even, I'm tired of it all. Everyone complains about every little bit. Tell me who you're going to save running your mouth on minimum wage, because time's running out while you're running your mouth. It's very like self-aware music.
Well, I hope it is. I'm glad it comes off that way. Yeah, those lyrics were, I wrote that song just on an acoustic, just recorded it on my cell phone, like the demo of it. I just kind of like did it for kicks, and I really liked all I did was write that first verse and then the chorus, and I just kind of sent it around to my friends and like the band members and stuff. And that was really all it was ever meant to be. I wasn't really thinking about making it like a full-on song for us, just because the lyrics have a bit of an edge to them. They're like pretty direct, and it's not really clear if it's like me talking about someone else or talking about ourselves, but it's not meant to be clear either, but it has a bit of an edge. Like the lyrics are a bit almost, you could almost read them aggressively.
I agree.
So at first it didn't even cross my mind that would be like a song, let alone like the song off the EP is what it's turned out to be. But I just was like, I wrote it kind of from a place of passion, and that's like the best place to be. Like artistically, I was like, let's roll it, let's roll with it, and let's make it happen. So we fleshed it out. We made it, a production, and we put it out there, and it turned, so far, just the last few days, it's been, head and shoulders the most popular track off the EP.
Off their new EP, Command Shift, this is Brother Oliver with Minimum Wage.
Everyone complains about every little bit. Tell me who you gotta say. Running your mouth on minimum wage. It's time running out while you're running your mind. Outside, there's things to make. Open your eyes, there's a breath to take. If that ain't played, then get out the way. I've got a cup of caffeine and I filled my day. It's time running out while you're typing it out. Still typing it drawing it out while you're typing it out. I am tired of all of it. Everyone complains about it a little bit. Tell me who you gotta say. Running your mouth on minimum wage.
Which, it doesn't surprise me, because anytime you write, because that's what people want. They want like what you really have to say, right? They don't want like a faux version of you. They want what you really have to say. And like, because that's why they like you or follow you, is because they like who you are, not, people follow famous actors and actresses. They don't necessarily follow the characters they play, I mean, they like the characters they play, but it's like at the end of the day, they like those actors and actresses, So as a musician, you got to be yourself. And on that track, it was really honest, almost to the point of having a bit of an edge to it. But I like that.
You kind of just said something that stands out. You have to be yourself, but you kind of got to know aspects of yourself to be able to even open up those ideas and open up those doors to have something original to say, And we talk about on here a lot with all the artists about being vulnerable, not vulnerable in the sense of always being emotional, but more like vulnerable in the sense of, fuck, I'm going to kind of just say what's on my mind and be real about it. That's something that I think every musician, when they take that next step, or what I should say is, I think it's a vital step to getting a product or project out. It's vital to be able to, and it's scary to look and say, I'm gonna show myself a little bit to a platform where you are literally putting yourself on the platform to be judged completely.
Yeah.
But you have to kind of share who you are to have something that can connect with those people. The third song, Who Shot the Music, to me, that was kind of like a classic Brother Oliver song.
Yeah.
It had, like I was saying, it has that, it's a great way to open up the record to kind of go to your roots in a way, because even Time or Money kind of had not like a pop element to it, but it kind of felt like it could fit in more with the song While I Drive, or While I'm Driving.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That While I'm Driving is an older song, but that kind of, to me, had more of like the alternative pop realm to it, which is cool because it showed different aspects of your songwriting. But once again, even though it's an older song, it goes back to kind of you being vulnerable about kind of your ideas in your head. One line, I don't want to hear your politics. I'm not trying to follow scripts. And then it's like, I couldn't understand what the last word was, not trying to make soldiers out of something.
College kids.
Yeah. So it's kind of very progressive. Like I said, reminds me of just like kind of like stick it to the man, fuck the system. Like, and where does that come from for you?
Yeah. I mean, I've always wanted to be able to do my own thing, like, and that spirit of, kind of, stick it to the man, like you said, like that's a big driving factor in why I do so much entrepreneurial stuff too. It's because I don't want to work for someone else, like I want to do my own thing and make my own money. And a lot of that fuels that side of me. But, musically, if we really want to get down to the roots, I was raised in a very religious home, and, my parents were very loving and took good care of us, but, we were raised very strict in a very, it was a fundamentalist Baptist church and they were very strict on like music like the way you dressed. Um, you know, and I'm always hesitant to kind of tread into these waters because I don't have a bunch of ill will towards those people per se, or even bitterness. Like I'm pretty at peace with all of it, but there was definitely a sense of being controlled that I didn't like when I was younger at that time, and I, I didn't feel like I agreed with everything, and when you're in that environment so deep for your whole childhood and then adolescence, it's, you want to find answers, you want to break free, you want to, all of those emotions were running wild in my teens, and I got really into, exploring those worlds like theology and philosophy. And I like when I was 18, 19, that was like all I did. I like on my free time, I'd just be like reading philosophy articles, theology, like trying to figure out things, find answers. But at the end of the day, it's like I did not like the control aspects, and a lot of organized religion, especially when it starts to get more strict, more into minute things like how people dress, the type of music they listen to, those things, it can kind of rear a bit of an ugly head. That's when and again, I'm not saying like the church I grew up in was necessarily terrible or like rearing an ugly head, but that's right on the edge of where things can start to turn, right? So when you start going down those paths, and as a child, that's what I was raised in. I got a lot of great stuff out of that environment. A lot of, there's a lot of personal discipline I think I have from being in that environment. Um, but I also have this sense of independence because I felt like that was something I wanted so badly growing up, was that independence and that freedom of thought. And so I think that definitely influenced my art at that time, and it still influences me. It's in my roots. And so I definitely have that spirit of, I want to be independent, be free, and and do the best I can to contribute to the world.
Yeah, it sounds like you're even contributing that experience in a different type of way. You're communicating it in a very digestible manner, regardless of someone knowing your past. It makes a lot of sense now hearing those types of things. Was it almost like a rediscovering of yourself? Because when we're children, you didn't choose that.
Right.
You didn't sign up for that. It's not like you signed a waiver when you were born. It's just you're a product of your environment until a certain point, and then you start to reanalyze some stuff, or you just kind of fall into that generational cycle, repeating, I should say. But was it more so rediscovery of yourself, or you just kind of said, "Oh, that's cool," because there are a lot of great lessons and insight to learn from that world. I've kind of can relate growing up in a Catholic home, and there was a lot of things that started to hit me where I was like, man, like this really makes a lot of sense. This really makes me feel good. And these lessons are fantastic. But then there were a lot of things that seemed counterintuitive,
Right.
certain judgmental aspects. But I'm like, oh, isn't everything we're talking about, or the bigger point, to not be about that? And
Right.
that led to different avenues and different outlets of, spirituality, looking into things like Buddhism, Taoism, you know, the deeper practices of what yoga means and meditation, things like that. So the kind of original question for you is, was it a new sense of discovery? And it sounds like music was your outlet to make sense of it.
Yeah, I think it definitely was that. And music was kind of what became the default for my voice at the time. Because like you said, you're born into it, right? So it wasn't, as when you're like 3 years old, you're not like choosing to to be raised how you just get what you get. And I was raised with these beliefs, and so once you reach a certain level of maturity, whether you're 15, 16, 17 years old, you start having a little more independent thought, but you've been, you know, you have so many ideologies that have been ingrained in you at that point that it's a little different process to strip one off. It's easier, I think, to like take something on than it is to take something off when it comes to things like that. So it definitely puts you through a different process when you makes you really think, I guess, and really seriously analyze like what is it that I really do believe. Um, and everybody, not even just religious people, are raised with ideologies. It's not just religious people that have ideas or concepts or preconceived notions that are ingrained in them. That's everyone. And so I think just by having the labels that I could identify, labels being Christianity, being, the Baptist denomination, like because they were so identifiable, it makes it easier almost in a sense to analyze them. As opposed to someone who maybe doesn't have any labeled belief system, who's maybe raised non-religiously, and they have all these ingrained ideas and ideologies from their parents and their families. They might not even know what they are because they don't know, how do you begin to identify them? You have to identify them one at a time. So, from that standpoint, I don't know, it's just a different game, and I appreciate what I got from it. I don't know that I'd change anything going back because I like the fact that I did have to do so much of that self-analyzation and had, I was questioning authority at a young age, in a way that was digestible. I wasn't like under, a military regime or something. There's people who have it much, much worse, in other parts of the world. But I got to be in that spot where I could kind of question authority and be like, maybe they don't have all the answers, or maybe they do, but asking those questions is really what's important.
There's a lot of musicians who speak up about that, is they've been in similar circumstances, whether it be religion. But I think the cool thing you said is it's true. Every single person, regardless of it being religion, is learning, and their body is creating physiological and neurological responses to their environment, whether it be with religious input or not. And I think you find a lot of musicians that when they do have a self-analyzing aspect, or they can reflect, or they have something in their mind that wires them to be able to express that, I think that's what makes great music sometimes, is hearing about those situations that are universal and it being expressed in a certain way. And that's why I think what's cool about your guys' music, even the new stuff and everything else, there's a not a questioning of authority, or maybe there is at some points, but it's cool to hear the ideas you guys are bringing across. I love the themes that you guys present to us. I'm very, very, very curious as to hear what Who Shot the Music is about. That to me is classic Brother Oliver sound, presented in a new way. But if I said to someone like, what's a Brother Oliver kind of sounding song, I'd be like, oh, out of the new stuff, Who Shot the Music?
Well, you've identified it correctly, because that's out of the three songs. Minimum Wage and Time or Money are brand new, never been played live, just written for this EP. Whereas Who Shot the Music, we've been playing that live for almost 2 years, and we just never had recorded it in the studio. And this, the song is really about burning out, right? So when I wrote it, we had been playing full time, 200 dates a year, I think for 2 years at that point. And I think in 2017, 2018, I think we played 200 dates. And then 2019, we played 150 dates.
Damn. Can you tell us about that too?
Yeah. Well, the song is about burning out from that, so like after a while, and anyone who's toured intensely gets it, like you start to burn out on the material. You're playing the same stuff every night. The only variable is the crowd, which is a great variable because, obviously those are the people that you're doing it for. You're trying to do it for them and entertain them. But you start to become, you're just doing the same thing every night, playing the same songs every night. And you start to, if you're not careful, you can start to lose that that love for it. And everybody needs breaks sometimes, you know, but um excuse me, that song was about that. Like, um we were playing so much, and at that time depending on it for our income, it was just starting starting to lose a little bit of that original feeling of why we were doing it. And so the, you know, the song's like, what happened to the music? Like, it doesn't sound like it used to sound, doesn't feel like it used to feel. um and you know, there's lines in there like, um there's people acting foolish, just pouring shots. Like, you know, you go into these bars and these venues and you've done it hundreds of times, just people, you know, just drinking, and in reality it's just people out having a good time. But like, that's after you've done it night after night after night after night, it's like you just see a bunch of people like acting a fool sometimes, you know. So it's like the song's about that struggle of being jaded versus not being jaded, and trying to remain true to why it is you're doing this to begin with. And so it was kind of almost fitting in a way to put it out this year, just because the music industry, as far as playing shows and stuff, did die this year, or temporarily, you know, be put on pause. And so, you know, kind of fit that theme a little bit, like what happened to the music. Um, but yeah, that's definitely like an OG Brother Oliver type of song.
I think that's a big hurdle to, it's not a longevity thing. It kind of goes back to our original points we were talking about. I think that, what am I trying to say? I think like when you have such a cathartic experience writing, and you have this vision in your head, and you have put your heart and soul into something like that, and starting off, you have to play those types of gigs to those types of crowds to get started. And I think it can be very daunting. And I think it is an opportunity to reflect on your love for the music and staying confident in why you want to do something. But I think that can be a factor as to why you can just say like, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. Because, you know, you go and play to 3 people and you're like, fuck. Like,
Yeah.
is this it? But there are those stories. I mean, it sounds, for the most part, unless you knew somebody or you were like going to be bred to be a pop star and sell your soul to the devil, everyone started off there, you know? But I genuinely think that is a factor. It's like that bump. It's that bump in the road, man, where you face the reality that like, this is gotta buckle up, you know?
Yeah. Everybody thinks that success goes like straight up. Like it's like the
trajectory.
The trajectory. They think it just goes straight up when it looks more like a stock market chart on a 10-year chart. You know, like the cognitive dissonance that we would deal with sometimes was crazy, because we'd play like a huge show. Like we'd play like when we opened for the Steve Miller Band, you know, just world class, like huge life-changing moment. And then the next night we're playing and it's like some out of town place where nobody knows us and there's nobody there. And there's like just people talking over us. Like that cognitive dissonance, that was the worst. That was the hardest, I think. Cause like one night you're a rock star and the next night there's like a little kid running by spilling stuff on your gear. Yeah. You know, at in the corner of some brewery or something. Like that was the hardest part, I'd have to say, was that cognitive brewery,
there's some dog like shitting over in the corner on accident or something.
Yeah. We played a brewery once in Charleston. I won't say what one, but we were playing and nobody really gave a shit about the music, and a dog just walked in front of us. I'm not kidding. And just lifted his leg and just peed on the floor like 5 feet in front of us while we're playing. And we're just like, you're kidding me. Like,
it's like there's fucking 200 yards out there, man. You had to.
Yeah, it's just like, we need to go. Yeah. But that's how it goes, you know. That's the ups and downs. It doesn't happen conveniently where you just naturally progress, and every single night's a little better than the last one. You know, it's an overall arc kind of thing, and it has its dips and valleys.
It's the grit and the resilience aspect of it where I think it's an opportunity as a musician in a way. It's not a reality check, but I think it does teach you or gives you an opportunity to look, and I say the word meditate, but to meditate on the fact of I'm going to hold strong. I'm going to hold strong and keep going and not give up on something based upon the validation I need from an experience. And I think sometimes that can get put into a show and a performance, that energy, where there was an interview I was listening to with Ed Sheeran, and he was even saying, you know, you chase all these things, and he's like, I've played Wembley Stadium, and he's like, you know, you think that'd be the pinnacle of your life, and he's like, I played it, and then it was just over, and like I just felt like, I don't know, it's done.
Yeah.
It's done now. So I think when you associate your validation based upon how many people showed up or this
Right.
or that, you're gonna deal with some mental obstacles and you'll have that natural doubt. But that's the perseverance of music, and these are the challenges of the industry. And I just think that's a natural part to the process. But opening for Steve Miller at the Peace Center, Greenville. I mean, Greenville is an amazing place, man. What an awesome spot. And they're very supportive of the arts and kind of I'd say it's a very creative spot. You know,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of the surrounding cities are very creative, especially I think of Asheville, North Carolina. That's a very creative, open-minded place.
Yeah.
But I mean, were you guys like shitting bricks? Like, how did you even get that call? Because the Peace Center is a beautiful venue for anyone listening that doesn't know. Greenville, South Carolina, upper northwest region of the state, close to the border of North Carolina. Greenville's this, little city outside the mountains. And there's a venue called the Peace Center. They do a lot of Broadway plays, or Broadway Jesus. They do a lot of plays there, but they do have music acts as well. And you guys opened up for Steve Miller. A, were you shitting bricks? B, were you shitting bricks when they said, do you want to do this? C, how did that even come to be?
Yeah. So we just got the email. It was crazy. So
From who?
from the vice president of the Peace Center, he just emailed us, asked if we wanted to open. I guess the Steve Miller Band was looking for an opener for that show for whatever reason. And locally, I'm assuming they looked over options locally and they chose us.
Well, you fit the sound as well.
Yeah. I think, that definitely played into it. Just kind of like our psychedelic kind of vibe was probably a good match. But yeah, we didn't pursue it. We didn't like try and, we weren't whining and dining somebody trying to get this gig. They literally just emailed us and we were just like, are you serious? Like, and we're like looking up the Steve Miller Band, like, this is the band we think this is, right? Like, yes, these are. It's like it almost was like fake, almost felt fake. Like they want us to open. Like this is the Steve Miller Band, And we had another show. This was like only like a week and a half in advance too. They let us know, and we had another show booked that night. But we're like,
you can't make it. Sorry.
Yeah, we're like, hey, so we just told them, we're like, yeah, so the Steve Miller Band wants us to open for him at the Peace Center. They're like, go on, do it.
We will pay you to go.
Yeah, they were cool about it, obviously. So, yeah, that was wild, man. And not only did we get to play the gig, they like treated us like so well. We got to eat dinner, with the Steve Miller Band in like the back area where they have like a room, and they had it like a catered meal, and we had they really just treated us so well. Yeah, it was crazy, man, and it was definitely nerve-wracking a little bit. At that point, getting nervous before a show was not really something I dealt with at that point, but I got a little nervous before that show. It was sold out, full house, and You go out on the stage and it's just like they say, like with the lights on the stage, you look out at the crowd, you can't see anything. It's just black.
That's true.
Yeah, it's very true. And so
This is like, sorry to cut you off, but once again, for people listening, Peace Center is like laid out like as if you were in Radio City. It's got the tiers, it's got everything. It's legit. It's a beautiful place, dude. Beautiful venue. So anyway, as you were saying, it is true with the blinding lights. You saw the light.
Yeah, all you see is lights. You don't. So like, I wasn't used to that. Usually, I look at people's faces. So I'm like, as a performer, that's like a good tactic. Is like if you can make eye contact with different members of the crowd, it's a way to make connection with the audience. So I'm like looking around, trying to like look at people. I'm like, it almost felt like you're performing like for like green screen or something, like,
yeah.
But you just know that there's, 2,500 people out there.
Wow.
And then after you finish the song, it's just like a rainfall of clapping. So you're like, oh, they're actually there, like they're cheering and stuff.
That's like, to me, it's you really dive into the performance, obviously, but you go into yourself really to just feel the music, and really you have an opportunity to really express where you're like, all right, I can't see anybody, but I'm going to give it my all. I watched the performance of you guys doing Well Hell at the at Horizon Records. Dope record store, dude. Great record store. My God. Anyone you're ever in Greenville, South Carolina, check out Horizon. They got a bunch of stuff. And man, you had a great performance as, frontman, no instrument, which is, I think, a very, not a tough thing to do, but when you're faced with the opportunity, I think really diving into the emotion of the music, and you kind of not put your blinders on, but you say, all right, I'm getting into this. I'm feeling the song, and I'm just going to let it work through me. I'm going to be the conduit. And it's like, you were sitting there adjusting your vocal reverb on a pedal live, just creating this like massive sound. That's a great thing. You guys have a very climactic approach to your performances with, a lot of crescendos, a lot of the big reverbs, a lot of the soaring, dynamic range. And as a front man, do you find it natural to be performing that way, or is it something you consciously think of like, all right, I want to be on my zone, or is it just natural for you?
It's pretty natural. I don't have to think too much about it. The only time I have to think about it is if the show's like going bad, or something is going wrong, like something's not working, or like maybe my monitor mix is like messed up or something. Then I'm like, if something throws me out of my zone, then I have to have that moment of like, all right, you need to pour yourself into the performance right now. Don't get distracted. But, assuming it's a normal show and everything's going well, I don't usually have to think about it too much. I feel the music. And when you're playing with the band, it's easy because they're just, Devin's on the drums carrying, and George is so good on the bass. And so the foundation is so strong that I can just kind of lose myself on that.
Yeah. To kind of hit some of the last points, you also do Brother Oliver TV, which is kind of, your guys' way of releasing content, which I think is great. And Forthright Records, you have a very good understanding of the marketing of music, I think. Do you have a good support system that keeps you grounded as well for all of this content? Like, are you doing this alone? Like, are you doing the mixing, the engineering, the mastering, all the content? Are you doing that yourself as well?
No, so it's a team effort for sure. We've got a video guy. His name's Dan Johnson, and so he's like our go-to for the video content. So with Bo TV stuff, usually I'll have like an idea, like the idea for the episode, and I'll usually write a screenplay, a loose screenplay of how I think it should go. And then I'll meet with Dan, and he will go over that screenplay. He'll critique it. He'll offer suggestions, changes, stuff like that. And then we'll kind of, at that point, whittle it down to a final screenplay. And then for the actual shoot, we're always making changes on the fly during the day of the shoot. He's like, hey, we should actually shoot it like this. I'm like, that's a great idea. So it's very fluid. Um, and I, like I said, we have a team. Steven does a lot of graphic and Photoshop stuff for different things we need for that. I usually do the audio stuff. And we have multiple photographers that we work with. So it's definitely a team effort. And I'm fortunate to have that good team around me, and all of them just love to do it. That's why we're so fortunate, and it makes it fun, and it makes the creative process really clutch. And with the Bo TV stuff, and Dan has really been a big player for us with that. He's got a great mind when it comes to like setting up scenes and scripts, because it's good to have someone who can contribute and make something better, like, because I'll write an idea, and so sometimes I think it's like brilliant and perfect and ready to go, but at the end of the day, sometimes it needs a little help, like, because I'm not a film director, I'm a musician, I'm an audio guy, so it's nice to have other people with outside perspectives to help with it.
Yeah. I'm curious as well. Do you do like scheduling? Like, do you keep yourself on a schedule, like planning while you're doing all of this stuff? Do you find that that's essential to everything you're doing, or are you literally like an alien and you're just doing this all on the fly?
When it comes to the projects, it's everything's scheduled, right? So when we're shooting a video, once we've determined, okay, we're going to make this video, we'll schedule it, we'll map it out, we'll get everything in place, and we'll try and stick to that schedule as best we can and get it out in the timeline that we create. As far as the content itself, there is no schedule. I've wanted to have at different points, like, okay, we're going to release an episode every month or every 2 weeks, but I've never really, I don't like to force it, so for the actual content, it's really just as the ideas come. So when we have a great idea for an episode, we'll start planning it to shoot it. And this year we're overdue an episode, and we've got a couple ideas in the pot, so I would expect something to be popping up soon. But this year was really a little different, just with everything going on, where most of the Bo TV stuff is comedic, or it's very much like reality, like it's either comedic or doing something that's unexpected, like, oh, I can't believe they're doing that, or something like that. And just with COVID and everything, it just was a hard year for that kind of content, because so much of it hinges on doing it in public and going out into the real world, and because it's very experiential. So I'm expecting us to get back onto that horse in the coming months, because I miss making that content for sure. That was one of my favorite things.
Just one kind of question. Since you've done all this stuff over the years and you've made some, huge steps with all of these projects, how much time did it take you to really feel comfortable, to say, oh, I'm doing well with this? And do you have any advice for someone who maybe has an idea, or someone who's trying to follow their passion and things like that? Do you have any insight or advice to what you would say to someone if they're hesitant about even trying, or hesitant or questioning whether it's something they should do? You got any insight?
Well, for someone who has an idea or something they want to do, I mean, I'd say you just got to go for it. If figure out why it is you're hesitant, if you can, first off, like, if you're, significantly having reservations, try and identify what those are, whether it's reservations with the idea, then maybe address that. Maybe the idea is not as good as you think. Or if it's just fear-based, or you're just worried about going outside of the norm, try and figure out what those reservations are. But, ultimately, I think you need to just go for it, because you really can't lose, because either you're going to find success, you're going to find that satisfaction, or you're not going to find that success. It's not going to work out, and you're going to learn so much that it'll blow your mind. Like, it'll blow your mind how much you'll learn in the process of failing something. And like I said, you don't really fail. Like, it's a win-win, you know? So if you just go all out, try and bring something to fruition, and it doesn't pan out, that's a huge win, because you've just learned just an ocean of experiential knowledge. And then, you know, your first question about how long did it take till I felt like I was doing well. I got a devil on one shoulder and an angel on my other shoulder, and it's always that way. And I got my angel that says I'm doing great. It makes me feel real good, and I feel real proud of myself. But then the devil at the same time says I'm not doing enough, and I need to be doing more, and there's still way more to be done. So it's, you know, it's back and forth. But at the end of the day, I'm a happy person, and I'm very fulfilled. I'll say that. So, but there's a lot more I want to do.
And honestly, last thing, does your faith still kind of stick you through? Because if it's funny, I feel like you got the devil on one shoulder. I get it. You got the devil on a shoulder and you got the angel on the other. Do you have your faith kind of keeping you grounded in the middle?
Yeah, I mean, even this year, I couldn't deny that. Just, you know, they say that luck favors the well-prepared. I think that's what the quote is, something like that. But at the same time, there's things that have happened in my timeline and with my projects where sometimes it feels divine, like the doors that open, or the things that happen, or the things that don't happen. And whether or not it's supernatural or not, either way, I know that all I can do is what I can do, and the rest is beyond me, you know? So like, if that's what faith is, and I think it is kind of what faith is, you know, I do have some of that, because at the end of the day, anything could happen. You know, I could be in a tragic accident, you know, like heaven forbid, you know, people I work with, something could happen. It's just, anything could happen. It's the Wild West out here. And the fact that nothing has happened and that opportunities keep arising, I'm just grateful for that.
Who shot the music? Who shot the mirror? There's people acting foolish. They're pouring shots in here. I sold my life for pennies, oh, but I gave them out for free. Now there's demons all around me. Now there's demons all around me. 'Cause I gave my life for next to nothing, and I've never asked for nothing in return. We have learned to cope with next to nothing, but refuse to accept that's all we're worth. Who shot the music? Who shot the mirror? People acting foolish, pouring shots in here. I sold my life for pennies, oh, but I gave them out for free. Now there's demons all around me. Now there's demons all around me. 'Cause I've doing this for way too long, to know the feelings that I had are way too strong. music doesn't sound the way it once did. And the feelings that I had are gone. I've been doing this for way too long to know the feelings that I have are way too strong. The music doesn't sound the way it once did, and the feelings that I have are gone. I gave my life for next to nothing, and I've never asked for nothing in return. We've learned to cope with next to nothing, but refuse to accept that's all we're worth. Shot the music.
That was Brother Oliver with Who Shot the Music off their new EP Command Shift. If you're interested in checking out more of Brother Oliver's work and checking out their catalog, head over to wherever it is you can find music and stream music, like Spotify, YouTube, Apple Music, Amazon, SoundCloud, or Bandcamp. You can also head over to brotheroliver.com to check out all of their content. And if you want to show some support for the boys, give them a follow, a like, or subscribe wherever you can, and make sure to share their music. They are on Instagram with the handle @BrotherOliver. And if you're interested in any of the products that Andrew was discussing during this episode, you can head over to wavescustom.com, or you can find them on Instagram with the handle @wavescustom. Now, just one thing. If you search Waves Custom, take the E out of Waves. So WAVS, Waves Custom. From there, if you want your own set of custom headphones, if you got a cell phone, you're right ahead of the game. Head over to those websites and you can get your own pair of custom headphones. Now, I'll take a quote right out of the Theo Von handbook. If you're trying to get those dust bunnies and those dust bears away from your equipment and you're trying to protect your gear, check out Andrew's other product, Dummies. Now, you can find them on Instagram with the handle @getdummies.com. Now that is dummies with a Z, so I'm talking dummies, DUMMIEZ, dummies. You can head over to getdummies.com as well to get your own set of dummies to protect your gear today. Right now, Christmas is right around the corner. Those are some cool products if you need to hook up a musician or someone who has anything involving music in their life. So, thank you for checking this out. We will be back soon for episode 10.
And I don't wanna hear your politics, not trying to follow scripts, chasing after dollars and making soldiers out of college kids while I'm driving down the road. The road